What if I told you that the very door you've been praying for is closer to opening than you think? Beloved of the Lord, in the mighty, matchless, and victorious name of Jesus Christ, we declare that every locked door is opening, every barrier is breaking, and every divine opportunity assigned to your life is being released today. This is not an ordinary morning. This is a prophetic moment where heaven is aligning circumstances in your favor and making a way where there seemed to be no way. Have you been praying for a breakthrough, waiting for an answer, or believing God for a door that only He can open? Tell me in the comments, what area of your life are you trusting God to move in today? The God we serve is the one who opens doors no man can shut and shuts doors no man can open. When His hand is upon your life, no opposition can stop your progress, no delay can cancel your destiny, and no obstacle can block your divine assignment. Today, we are coming into agreement with God's promises, expecting miracles, favor, restoration, and supernatural advancement. Where are you watching from today? I would love to stand in faith with you as we pray together. And if you believe that God is about to do something extraordinary in your life, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs encouragement this morning. As we enter this time of prayer, position your heart for expectation. Leave every worry, every fear, and every burden at the feet of Jesus. This Thursday morning, we are believing for open doors, divine connections, unexpected blessings, and breakthroughs that will leave no doubt that God has gone before you. Are you ready to receive what heaven has prepared for you today? Let's pray together and watch God move in a powerful way. Beloved, there is a powerful truth that can transform the way you see your future when God opens a door. No person, no obstacle, no delay, and no opposition has the authority to shut it. The God who created the heavens and the earth is not limited by human systems, economic conditions, negative reports, or closed opportunities. He is the sovereign King who holds the keys of destiny in His hands. Have you ever stood before a door that seemed impossible to open? Have you ever wondered if the breakthrough you have been praying for would ever come? Many people spend their lives knocking on doors that were never assigned to them, becoming discouraged when those doors remain closed. Yet God often uses closed doors as divine protection and open doors as divine direction. What if some of the disappointments you experienced were actually God's way of redirecting you toward something greater? Can you think of a situation that did not work out the way you wanted, but later proved to be a blessing? When God opens a door, He does not need permission from people to bless you. He does not need approval from your critics. He does not need cooperation from those who tried to limit your progress. His power is greater than every human opinion and stronger than every obstacle standing in your path. Have you been allowing someone's opinion to determine how far you can go? Have you been waiting for people to validate what God has already spoken over your life? Sometimes we become so focused on who is against us that we forget who is for us. The Lord is for you. Heaven is backing His purpose for your life. The same God who opened doors for countless people throughout history is still opening doors today. He is not limited by your past mistakes, your current challenges, or the circumstances surrounding you right now. What challenge are you facing at this moment that seems bigger than your ability? Do you believe God is able to intervene in that situation? There are seasons when it appears as though nothing is moving. You pray, you believe, you work hard, and yet the door remains closed. During those moments, it is easy to become discouraged. It is easy to question whether God hears your prayers. But delay does not mean denial. God's timing is perfect, and what He opens at the right moment often produces greater results than anything we could force open ourselves. Have you been struggling with impatience lately? Is there an area of your life where you need to trust God's timing more deeply? Many people underestimate the power of divine timing. They assume that because something has not happened yet, it will never happen. But God is always working behind the scenes. He is arranging circumstances, aligning relationships, removing obstacles, and preparing opportunities that you cannot yet see. While you are praying, He is positioning things in your favor. Can you remember a time when God surprised you with an answer that came at exactly the right moment? How did that experience strengthen your faith? The door God opens is often connected to purpose. It is not simply about comfort, success, or personal gain. It is about fulfilling the assignment He has placed upon your life. Every opportunity He provides carries the potential to move you closer to your destiny. That is why spiritual discernment is so important. Not every open door is a God door, but every God door will lead you toward His purpose. Have you been asking God for wisdom regarding the opportunities in front of you? Are there decisions you need clarity about today? Fear is one of the greatest enemies of open doors. Many people pray for opportunities, but become afraid when those opportunities finally arrive. They ask God for growth, but hesitate when growth requires faith. They ask for promotion, but become uncomfortable when responsibility increases. Yet faith requires movement. Faith requires trust. Has fear ever stopped you from pursuing an opportunity? What would you attempt if you knew God was walking beside you every step of the way? When God opens a door, He also provides the grace necessary to walk through it. You do not have to possess all the answers before taking the first step. You do not need perfect conditions before moving forward. The God who opens the door also equips you for the journey beyond it. His strength becomes available when you step out in obedience. Are you waiting until everything feels perfect before moving forward? Could God be inviting you to trust Him more deeply right now? One of the most powerful lessons you can learn is that God's favor can accomplish in moments what human effort alone cannot achieve in years. There are opportunities that no amount of networking could create, relationships that no strategy could arrange, and breakthroughs that no human power could manufacture. When God's hand moves, impossible situations begin to shift. Have you experienced unexpected favor in your life before? Can you identify a moment when you knew God's hand was working behind the scenes? There will always be voices attempting to convince you that your situation is hopeless. There will always be circumstances trying to persuade you to lower your expectations. Yet faith chooses to agree with God's promises rather than human limitations. Faith sees beyond the current reality and embraces what God has declared possible. What promise are you holding on to today? What area of your life requires you to believe beyond what you currently see? The enemy often attacks people who are standing near significant doors of opportunity. Opposition increases because breakthrough is approaching. Resistance intensifies because something valuable is on the other side. Do not interpret every battle as a sign that God has abandoned you. Sometimes the battle is evidence that you are closer than you realize. Have you been facing unusual resistance recently? Could it be possible that a major breakthrough is nearer than you think? God's open doors are not reserved for a select few. They are available to those who trust Him, seek Him, and remain faithful through every season. No background is too broken. No history is too complicated. No failure is too great for God's redeeming power. He specializes in opening doors that others declared permanently closed. Have you ever felt disqualified because of your past? What would change if you truly believed God's grace was greater than every mistake? Today, choose to lift your eyes beyond your circumstances. Refuse to measure your future by your current limitations. Refuse to define your possibilities by what others have said about you. The God who holds the keys of every door is still working on your behalf. He is still creating opportunities, making pathways, and orchestrating divine connections. Every promise He has spoken remains alive. Every purpose He has assigned remains intact. Every blessing He has prepared remains available. The door that God opens carries His authority, His favor, His provision, His wisdom, and His power. When He decides it is time, no force on earth can prevent what He has ordained for your life. What are you believing God to open for you in this season? Tell me in the comments, and as you declare it by faith, begin to expect God to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that you could ask, think, or imagine. Beloved, one of the greatest tactics used against people of faith is the creation of barriers designed to slow their progress and delays intended to weaken their confidence. Yet today, we must understand that every barrier standing between you and God's purpose can be moved by His power. Every delay that has attempted to frustrate your destiny is subject to the authority of God. What looks impossible to people is never impossible to Him. Have you been feeling like something has been blocking your progress lately? Is there an area of your life where you have been asking yourself, why does it seem like nothing is moving? Many people know what it feels like to pray, believe, work hard, and remain faithful, only to encounter obstacle after obstacle. You may have expected doors to open by now. You may have thought certain prayers would have been answered already. Yet instead of advancement, you have experienced resistance. Instead of acceleration, you have experienced waiting. Can you think of a situation where you expected a breakthrough but found yourself facing another challenge instead? How did that experience affect your faith? One of the enemy's goals is to convince you that delay means defeat. He wants you to assume that because something has not happened yet, it never will. He wants you to become discouraged and abandon the very promise that God intends to fulfill. But delay and denial are not the same thing. God's calendar is not controlled by human expectations. Have you ever looked back and realized that something happened at exactly the right time? Have you seen God work in ways that made sense only after the waiting season ended? Sometimes barriers appear in the form of financial challenges. You may have the vision but not the resources. You may have the dream but not the funding. You may know where God is leading you, yet the provision seems delayed. In those moments, it is important to remember that God is not limited by earthly economies. The one who owns everything is fully capable of supplying what is needed at the appointed time. Are you currently trusting God for financial breakthrough? What area of provision are you believing Him to release? For others, barriers appear through relationships. There may be misunderstandings, disappointments, betrayals, or conflicts that seem to stand in the way of progress. Sometimes people become obstacles because they are operating from fear, jealousy, insecurity, or misunderstanding. Yet God has the power to change hearts, create new opportunities, and connect you with the right people at the right moment. Have you ever had a relationship challenge that felt impossible to resolve? Did God eventually provide a solution you could not have imagined? There are also spiritual barriers that many people encounter. These are moments when you feel as though you are fighting invisible resistance. You pray, yet the burden remains heavy. You seek direction, yet clarity seems distant. You continue moving forward, yet everything feels more difficult than it should. These seasons require persistence and spiritual determination. Have you ever felt like you were facing resistance that could not be explained naturally? How did you respond during that season? The truth is that barriers often reveal strengths you never knew you possessed. Challenges have a way of developing perseverance, wisdom, patience, and spiritual maturity. While nobody enjoys difficulties, many of life's greatest lessons are learned while overcoming obstacles. The very barrier you wish would disappear may be teaching you something valuable for the future God has prepared. Can you identify a difficult season that ultimately made you stronger? What lesson did you gain from that experience? God never wastes a challenge. Even when situations appear confusing, He remains at work behind the scenes. While you are focused on the obstacle in front of you, He is developing your character, strengthening your faith, and preparing you for greater responsibility. The process may be uncomfortable, but the outcome often exceeds expectations. Have you noticed how some of your greatest growth came during difficult times rather than easy ones? What has God been teaching you recently? Many people become exhausted because they focus more on the barrier than on God's ability. The obstacle becomes larger in their minds than the God who created the universe. Yet faith shifts our attention. Faith acknowledges the challenge, but magnifies God's power. Faith recognizes the problem, but trusts the promise. What are you focusing on most right now? The size of your obstacle or the greatness of your God? How might your perspective change if you looked at the situation through the lens of faith? Another challenge many people face is the barrier of self-doubt. Sometimes the greatest obstacle is not external but internal. It is the voice that whispers, "You are not qualified." It is the fear that says, "You will fail." It is the insecurity that questions whether you are capable of fulfilling God's assignment. Yet God has never based his calling on human perfection. He calls people according to his purpose and equips them through his grace. Have you ever doubted your ability to accomplish something God placed on your heart? What would happen if you trusted his strength more than your own limitations? Fear has delayed countless dreams. Fear convinces people to stay where they are rather than step into what God has prepared. Fear creates imaginary barriers that become stronger than real ones. Yet courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to move forward despite uncertainty. Courage says, "I trust God enough to take the next step." Is there a step of faith you have been postponing? What is one thing you know God has been encouraging you to do? There are moments when delays become frustrating because they last longer than expected. You may wonder why the answer has not arrived. You may question why the breakthrough seems distant. Yet some delays are actually periods of preparation. God often prepares people before he releases opportunities. He develops capacity before increasing responsibility. Have you ever received something later than you wanted, but realized you were far more prepared when it finally arrived? Looking back, can you see wisdom in the waiting? Imagine receiving a blessing before you had the maturity to manage it. Imagine stepping into an opportunity before you possess the skills necessary to sustain it. Sometimes what feels like delay is actually divine preparation. God is ensuring that when the door opens, you are ready to walk through it successfully. Can you think of an area where God may be preparing you right now? What skills, habits, or attitudes might he be developing within you? One of the most powerful declarations you can make is that barriers will not define your future. Obstacles may exist, but they are temporary. Delays may occur, but they are not permanent. Challenges may arise, but they do not possess the authority to cancel God's purpose for your life. What God has spoken remains true regardless of current circumstances. Have you been allowing temporary challenges to shape your view of the future? What would happen if you began seeing obstacles as temporary instead of permanent? Every breakthrough story includes moments of resistance. Every testimony includes seasons of waiting. Every victory includes battles that had to be fought. The people who eventually experience extraordinary results are often the people who refused to quit when circumstances became difficult. They continued believing, continued praying, continued trusting, and continued moving forward. Have you considered how close you might be to your breakthrough? Could this be the very season where things begin to change? Even now, God is capable of removing barriers that seemed immovable. He can create opportunities where none existed. He can open doors that appeared permanently shut. He can make a path through situations that looked impossible. He can accelerate progress, restore lost time, and redeem seasons that felt wasted. The same power that has brought you this far is able to carry you through every obstacle, every delay, every challenge, and every resistance standing between you and the purpose he has prepared for your life. Beloved, there is something extraordinary that happens when the favor of God begins to operate in a person's life. Doors that once seemed impossible to enter suddenly begin to open. Opportunities that appeared out of reach become accessible. Circumstances that looked unfavorable start shifting in ways that cannot be fully explained by human effort alone. The favor of God has the ability to position you where your skills alone could never take you. Have you ever experienced a moment when something worked out far better than you expected? Can you remember a time when you knew God's hand was making a way for you? Many people spend years striving, struggling, and exhausting themselves trying to create opportunities. While hard work is important, there are moments when God's favor accomplishes more in a short season than human effort could achieve in many years. Favor is not a substitute for diligence, but it is a divine advantage that causes your efforts to produce greater results. Have you been praying for God to open new opportunities in your life? What area are you believing Him to touch right now? The favor of God is not limited to one area of life. It can touch your family, your career, your business, your ministry, your education, your relationships, and your finances. Wherever God's favor rests, unusual opportunities begin to emerge. People who never noticed you before may suddenly recognize your value. Situations that once appeared stagnant may suddenly begin moving forward. Can you think of an area where you need God's favor today? What breakthrough would make the greatest difference in your life right now? One of the challenges many people face is believing they are worthy of God's favor. They focus on their mistakes, weaknesses, and shortcomings. They allow past failures to convince them that they are disqualified from receiving God's blessings. Yet God's favor is not earned through perfection. It flows from His goodness, His mercy, and His love toward His children. Have you ever struggled with feeling unworthy of God's blessings? What would change if you fully embraced the truth that God delights in blessing His people? Sometimes favor arrives in ways we do not expect. We often imagine dramatic miracles, but favor can show up through a conversation, a recommendation, a new relationship, a phone call, an invitation, or an unexpected opportunity. What appears ordinary may actually be the beginning of something extraordinary that God has arranged behind the scenes. Have you ever received an unexpected opportunity that changed the direction of your life? Looking back, can you see God's hand in that moment? Many people miss opportunities because they become so focused on what they have lost that they fail to recognize what God is presenting. Disappointment has a way of narrowing vision. When one door closes, people often spend so much time grieving the loss that they overlook the new door opening nearby. Yet God is constantly at work creating fresh opportunities. Is there a disappointment you are still holding on to? Could God be inviting you to shift your focus towards something new He is doing? The favor of God often requires us to remain alert and spiritually sensitive. Opportunities do not always arrive with announcements and guarantees. Sometimes they appear as simple assignments, small beginnings, or unexpected invitations. The opportunity may not look impressive at first, but within it may be the seed of something much greater. Have you ever underestimated an opportunity that later proved significant? What opportunities might God be placing before you today? Another important truth about favor is that it often places you in environments that challenge your comfort zone. We pray for increase, but increase frequently requires growth. We ask for expansion, but expansion often demands greater responsibility. God's favor does not simply make life easier. It frequently calls us higher. Has God ever opened a door that felt exciting and intimidating at the same time? How did you respond to that opportunity? Many people pray for promotion but become nervous when promotion arrives. They ask for influence but feel overwhelmed when influence increases. They desire larger opportunities but hesitate when larger opportunities require greater faith. Yet favor and faith often work together. God's favor opens the door, and faith gives you the courage to walk through it. Is there a door in front of you right now that requires courage to enter? What fears might be trying to hold you back? Divine opportunities are rarely random. God is intentional about the people He connects, the places He leads, and the assignments He entrusts. Every opportunity carries the potential to move you closer to His purpose. This is why prayer and discernment are so important. Not every opportunity is meant for you, and not every open door aligns with your assignment. Have you been asking God for wisdom regarding important decisions? Are there opportunities you need clarity about today? There is also a difference between chasing opportunities and stewarding opportunities. Some people spend their lives chasing everything that looks promising, while others learn to recognize and maximize the opportunities God provides. Favor is not only about receiving opportunities, it is also about managing them well. When God places something valuable in your hands, how do you respond? Are you using your current opportunities faithfully? Faithfulness is one of the keys that unlocks greater favor. When you honor God with what He has already given you, you position yourself for increased responsibility and greater opportunities. Many people want more while neglecting what they already have. Yet God often watches how we manage today's assignments before entrusting us with tomorrow's blessings. What has God already placed in your hands? Are there gifts, talents, or opportunities that deserve greater attention from you? The favor of God also has a way of bringing the right people into your life. There are relationships that carry wisdom, encouragement, insight, and connection. Sometimes a single conversation can introduce you to an opportunity you never imagined. Sometimes one divine connection can accelerate years of progress. Can you remember someone God placed in your life at exactly the right time? How did that relationship impact your journey? At the same time, favor may also require separation from certain influences. Not everyone can accompany you into every season of your life. Some relationships encourage growth, while others hinder it. Some voices strengthen faith, while others create confusion. God's favor often includes the wisdom to recognize which relationships are helping you move forward. Have you ever had to let go of something familiar in order to embrace something better? What did that experience teach you? Many people limit themselves because they assume opportunities belong only to others. They see successful people and conclude that those individuals possess something they lack. Yet God is not limited in His ability to bless. There is no shortage of opportunities in His kingdom. Your blessing does not depend on someone else's loss. Your promotion does not require another person's failure. Do you ever compare your journey to someone else's? How might your life change if you focused more on God's plan for you than on what others are doing? Favor also creates confidence. Not confidence in yourself alone, but confidence in God's ability to guide and sustain you. When you know God is directing your steps, you can move forward without being paralyzed by uncertainty. You may not know every detail of the journey, but you trust the one leading you. Is there an area where God is asking you to trust Him more deeply? What would it look like to move forward with confidence instead of hesitation? There are opportunities waiting that you have not yet seen. There are doors being prepared that you have not yet discovered. There are conversations being arranged, connections being formed, and circumstances being aligned even now. God is able to create opportunities beyond your imagination and bring favor into places where you least expect it. He can position you before the right people, guide you toward the right decisions, and open pathways that no human effort could create. As you continue walking in faith, remaining faithful, staying prayerful, and keeping your heart open to His leading, divine favor has the power to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary opportunities and turn simple beginnings into remarkable testimonies. Where are you watching from today? And what opportunity are you believing God to open in your life? Share it in the comments. And if this message is encouraging your faith, take a moment to like and share it with someone who may be waiting for their own open door and divine opportunity. Beloved, one of the greatest gifts God gives His people is divine guidance. There are many doors in life, many opportunities, many paths, and many decisions, but not every door is meant for you. Not every opportunity is aligned with your purpose. This is why seeking God's direction is so important. The Lord does not simply want to open doors for you. He wants to lead you through the right doors at the right time. Have you ever walked through a door that looked promising at first, but later realized it was not where God wanted you to be? Looking back, what did that experience teach you? Many people assume that every opportunity is a blessing, but wisdom teaches us to look deeper. Some opportunities bring growth, while others bring distraction. Some doors move us closer to our purpose, while others consume our time, energy, and focus. God's guidance protects us from wasting valuable seasons pursuing things that were never assigned to us. Have you been facing an important decision recently? Are you asking God for clarity before taking your next step? One of the challenges of modern life is that there are countless voices competing for our attention. Friends offer advice. Social media promotes certain paths. Experts share opinions. Family members may have expectations. While some of these voices can be helpful, none of them should replace the voice of God in your life. Divine guidance provides clarity when human opinions create confusion. Have you ever received so much advice that you felt more confused than when you started? How do you usually seek God's direction when facing uncertainty? God often guides his people in ways that require faith. He may not reveal every detail at once. He may not provide a complete roadmap for the entire journey. Instead, he frequently gives enough light for the next step. He invites us to trust him daily, relying on his wisdom rather than our own understanding. Do you sometimes wish God would show you the entire plan all at once? How might your faith grow through learning to trust him one step at a time? Many people delay moving forward because they are waiting for absolute certainty. They want every question answered before taking action. They want every risk removed before stepping out in faith. Yet spiritual growth often happens in the space between what God has revealed and what remains unseen. Obedience frequently begins before all the details are known. Has there been a time when God asked you to move forward before everything made sense? What happened when you chose to trust him? One of the most important prayers you can pray is not simply, "Lord, open a door," but also, "Lord, show me which door to enter." There is a significant difference between activity and purpose. You can be busy without being effective. You can be productive without being aligned. God's direction helps ensure that your efforts are connected to his assignment for your life. Are there areas where you feel busy but uncertain about whether you are truly moving in the right direction? What might God be showing you today? Sometimes God's guidance comes through peace. Even when challenges exist, there is an inner confidence that you are moving according to his will. Other times, God uses a lack of peace as a warning signal. Something may look attractive externally, but internally there is a sense that it is not the right path. Have you ever experienced a situation where everything looked good on the surface, yet something inside told you to wait? Looking back, was that impression helpful? Discernment is one of the most valuable spiritual gifts you can develop. Discernment helps you recognize the difference between a good opportunity and a God opportunity. It helps you distinguish between what is urgent and what is important. It allows you to see beyond appearances and understand deeper realities. Do you regularly pray for wisdom and discernment? In what area of your life do you need greater clarity right now? There are moments when God closes doors for our protection. At the time, those closed doors can feel disappointing. We may question why things did not work out the way we hoped. We may wonder why opportunities disappeared or plans changed unexpectedly. Yet many believers can testify that some of God's greatest blessings came through doors that never opened. Can you think of a closed door that later turned out to be a blessing? How did your perspective change over time? What feels like rejection may actually be redirection. What appears to be a setback may be preparation for something better. God sees what we cannot see. He understands consequences we have not considered. His wisdom extends far beyond our limited perspective. Because of this, we can trust His guidance even when we do not fully understand it. Have you been struggling to understand a disappointment recently? Could God be redirecting you towards something greater than you currently imagine? Patience is often required when seeking divine direction. We live in a world that encourages immediate decisions and instant results. Yet God's guidance sometimes unfolds gradually. Waiting can be uncomfortable, especially when opportunities seem urgent. However, moving ahead without God's direction can create unnecessary complications. Do you find waiting difficult? What helps you remain patient while seeking God's guidance? One reason people miss God's direction is because they become distracted by comparison. They see someone else's opportunity and assume they should pursue the same path. They observe another person's success and conclude that they must follow an identical strategy. Yet God works uniquely in every life. Your assignment is not a copy of someone else's journey. Have you ever compared your path to someone else's? How did that comparison affect your peace and confidence? The Lord knows exactly what is needed to fulfill His purpose for your life. He understands your gifts, your experiences, your strengths, and even your weaknesses. He knows where you will thrive and where you will struggle. Because He knows you completely, His guidance is always personal and purposeful. What unique gifts do you believe God has placed within you? How might those gifts provide clues about the direction He is leading you? Divine guidance often involves preparation before manifestation. Before God opens certain doors, He develops the character necessary to sustain what lies beyond them. He teaches patience before promotion. He teaches humility before influence. He teaches stewardship before increase. Preparation may not always feel exciting, but it is essential. Can you identify ways God has been preparing you recently? What lessons seem to appear repeatedly in your life right now? Another important aspect of guidance is learning to recognize timing. A door can be right, but not yet ready. An opportunity can be good, but not yet aligned with God's schedule. Timing matters. What succeeds in one season may struggle in another. This is why prayerful sensitivity is so important. Have you ever rushed into something only to realize later that the timing was wrong? What did that experience teach you about waiting on God? When God provides direction, He also provides grace. He does not lead you toward a destination and then abandon you along the way. His presence accompanies His guidance. His strength supports your obedience. His wisdom continues illuminating the path as you move forward. You do not have to navigate life's most important decisions alone. Does knowing that God walks with you bring comfort when facing uncertainty? How would your outlook change if you remembered His presence in every decision? Many believers spend so much time worrying about making mistakes that they become afraid to move at all. Yet God is a loving Father. He is fully capable of guiding sincere hearts. He knows that we are learning. He knows that we do not always see clearly. As we seek Him, trust Him, and remain open to His correction, He faithfully directs our steps. Have you been afraid of making the wrong choice? What would happen if you trusted God's ability to guide you more than your fear of failure? There are doors ahead that require wisdom, discernment, patience, and courage. There are opportunities that will demand faith and decisions that will require dependence on God. Yet the same God who has guided you through previous seasons remains faithful today. He is still speaking, still leading, still directing, and still illuminating the path before you. He knows where every door leads. He understands every consequence, every opportunity, every challenge, and every blessing connected to the choices before you. As you continue seeking His presence, listening for His voice, and trusting His wisdom above your own understanding, you position yourself to recognize the right doors, avoid unnecessary detours, and walk confidently in the purpose He has designed for your life. Tell me in the comments, what decision are you currently praying about? Where do you need God's guidance most right now? Beloved, one of the most encouraging truths in the Word of God is that He is a God of restoration. No matter what has been lost, delayed, stolen, damaged, or interrupted, God possesses the power to restore. He is not limited by time, circumstances, or human failure. He specializes in taking what appears broken and bringing it back together in ways that reveal His goodness and His glory. Have you ever looked at a situation in your life and wondered if it could ever be restored? Is there something you have been asking God to rebuild, renew, or recover? Many people carry the weight of loss. Some have lost opportunities. Others have lost time, relationships, finances, confidence, peace, or hope. There are those who look back over previous seasons and wonder what their lives would have looked like if certain events had never happened. Regret can become a heavy burden when we spend too much time focusing on what was lost instead of what God is able to restore. Have you ever found yourself dwelling on something from the past? What is one area where you need God's healing and restoration today? The enemy wants people to believe that what is lost is gone forever. He wants you to think that missed opportunities can never return and that delayed dreams can never be fulfilled. He wants you to assume that your best days are behind you. Yet God's power is greater than every setback, every disappointment, and every mistake. He is able to create new opportunities, fresh beginnings, and unexpected breakthroughs. Have you ever experienced God giving you a second chance? How did that experience change your perspective about His faithfulness? Sometimes restoration happens in ways we recognize immediately. Other times it unfolds gradually. We often want instant results, but God frequently works through a process. He restores piece by piece, step by step, season by season. What appears small at first can eventually become something extraordinary through His blessing. Are you currently in a season of waiting for restoration? What signs of progress have you already begun to notice? One of the most painful losses people experience is the loss of time. Many look back and feel that years were wasted because of wrong decisions, difficult circumstances, unhealthy relationships, or unexpected setbacks. They wonder whether they can ever recover what was lost. Yet God has a remarkable ability to redeem time. He can accomplish in a short season what seemed impossible over many years. Have you ever felt like you were behind in life? What would change if you believed God could accelerate your progress? The Lord is not intimidated by delays. What surprises us never surprises Him. He sees the beginning and the end simultaneously. While we often focus on what was lost, God focuses on what can still be accomplished. His plans are not limited by the obstacles that interrupted your journey. Can you think of a delay that eventually led to something better than you originally expected? How did that experience strengthen your trust in God? Restoration is not always about returning to the way things were. Sometimes God's restoration is greater than the original condition. We often pray for recovery, while God prepares increase. We ask for replacement, while He plans multiplication. His vision extends beyond simply fixing what was broken. He desires to bring growth, maturity, and blessing through the process. Have you considered that God may be preparing something better than what you lost? What would that possibility mean for your faith today? Many people need restoration in their confidence. Life has a way of creating disappointments that affect how we see ourselves. Failures, criticism, rejection, and setbacks can slowly erode confidence. Over time, people begin doubting their abilities, questioning their purpose, and shrinking their expectations. Yet God never intended for His children to live defeated by insecurity. Have you ever allowed disappointment to affect how you see yourself? What would happen if you viewed yourself through God's promises instead of past experiences? The Lord knows how to restore courage. He knows how to rebuild confidence that has been weakened by difficult seasons. He knows how to remind you of the gifts, abilities, and purpose He has placed within you. What others overlooked, God still sees. What others dismissed, God still values. Is there a gift or dream you have set aside because of discouragement? Could God be inviting you to revisit it with fresh faith? Relationships are another area where people often seek restoration. Broken trust, misunderstandings, distance, and conflict can create deep wounds. While not every relationship is meant to be restored in the same way, God is able to bring healing where there has been pain. He can provide wisdom, reconciliation, forgiveness, and peace. Have you been praying for restoration in a relationship? What kind of healing are you believing God to bring into that situation? Financial restoration is also something many people desire. Unexpected expenses, poor decisions, economic challenges, and unforeseen difficulties can create seasons of lack. During these times, it is easy to become anxious about the future. Yet God remains faithful. He is still the provider. He is still the source of wisdom, opportunity, and provision. Are you trusting God for financial restoration today? What area of provision are you believing Him to touch? One of the most beautiful aspects of restoration is that it often reveals God's faithfulness in ways we would never have noticed otherwise. During seasons of blessing, it is easy to celebrate. During seasons of restoration, we learn deeper lessons about God's character. We discover His patience, His mercy, His compassion, and His ability to sustain us through every challenge. Can you identify a difficult season that ultimately revealed something new about God's faithfulness? What did you learn through that experience? Many people mistakenly assume that their mistakes have permanently disqualified them from God's best. They allow guilt and shame to keep them trapped in the past. Yet God specializes in redemption. He is able to take even our failures and use them for growth, wisdom, and future purpose. His grace is greater than every mistake. Have you been carrying guilt from something in your past? What would it feel like to fully accept God's forgiveness and move forward? Restoration requires faith because it asks us to believe before we see results. It invites us to trust God's promises when circumstances appear unchanged. Faith sees possibility where others see impossibility. Faith expects God to work even when there is no visible evidence yet. What promise are you currently holding onto by faith? How are you staying encouraged while waiting for its fulfillment? Patience often becomes part of the restoration process. We may want immediate answers, but God frequently develops perseverance while we wait. He uses the waiting season to strengthen character, deepen trust, and prepare us for what lies ahead. The waiting itself often contains valuable lessons. What has God been teaching you during your current season? Can you see ways He is developing your faith through the process? There are times when restoration begins with a simple shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on what was lost, we begin focusing on what remains. Instead of dwelling on disappointments, we begin recognizing possibilities. Instead of rehearsing failures, we start remembering God's promises. This shift does not ignore reality. It chooses to view reality through the lens of faith. Have you been focusing more on losses or possibilities recently? How might your outlook change if you concentrated on what God is still able to do? The God who created the universe is fully capable of restoring dreams that seem forgotten, opportunities that seem missed, confidence that seems broken, and hope that seems diminished. He knows every detail of your journey. He understands every disappointment, every setback, every delay, and every challenge you have faced. Nothing has escaped His attention. Nothing is beyond His ability to redeem. Even now, He is working behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, opening new doors, creating fresh opportunities, and preparing blessings that reflect His goodness. The story is not finished. The purpose He placed within you remains alive. The promises He has spoken remain true. His power to restore is still at work, bringing healing where there has been pain, rebuilding what has been damaged, renewing what has been weakened, and creating possibilities where others see only loss. Tell me in the comments, what area of your life are you believing God to restore? Where are you trusting Him to bring renewal, recovery, and fresh hope today? Beloved, one of the ways God opens doors that no man can shut is through divine connections. Throughout life, God often uses people as instruments of His purpose. He brings the right individuals into our path at the right moment, creating opportunities, providing wisdom, offering encouragement, and helping us move closer to the destiny He has prepared for us. No one fulfills their purpose entirely alone. Even the greatest leaders, visionaries, and pioneers were connected to people who helped them along the journey. Have you ever met someone who changed the direction of your life in a positive way? Can you think of a person God placed in your path at exactly the right moment? Many people pray for open doors, but forget that some doors are attached to relationships. Sometimes the answer to a prayer arrives through a conversation. Sometimes a breakthrough begins with a connection. Sometimes a single introduction leads to opportunities that impact an entire season of life. God understands the importance of relationships because He created us to live in community. Have you been praying for God to connect you with the right people? What kind of relationships are you believing Him to bring into your life? Not every relationship carries the same purpose. Some people enter your life to encourage you. Others come to teach you. Some provide wisdom through their experience, while others challenge you to grow beyond your comfort zone. There are relationships that inspire, relationships that strengthen, and relationships that help reveal gifts you may not have recognized within yourself. When you think about the people closest to you, do they encourage your growth and purpose? Who has been a positive influence in your life recently? One of the greatest blessings God can provide is a destiny helper. A destiny helper is someone who arrives at a strategic moment and assists you in moving toward God's purpose. They may offer guidance, resources, opportunities, support, or encouragement. Often, they recognize potential within you before you fully recognize it yourself. Has someone ever believed in you when you doubted yourself? How did their encouragement affect your confidence? Divine connections are rarely accidental. What appears to be coincidence is often the hand of God working behind the scenes. The Lord knows who possesses the wisdom you need, the opportunities you need, and the insights you need. He is able to orchestrate meetings and relationships that no human planning could arrange. Can you look back and see moments where God seemed to arrange a connection at exactly the right time? What happened as a result of that relationship? Many people focus so much on finding the right people that they forget the importance of becoming the right person. While it is good to pray for divine connections, it is equally important to develop the character, integrity, and wisdom necessary to sustain those relationships. God often prepares us internally before He introduces us to certain people externally. Have you considered how God may be preparing you for future relationships and opportunities? What qualities is He developing in your life right now? Humility plays a significant role in building healthy connections. Pride creates distance, while humility creates opportunity. People are naturally drawn toward individuals who are teachable, respectful, and willing to learn. A humble spirit keeps doors open and allows relationships to flourish. Are you open to learning from others, even when their experiences differ from your own? What lessons have you gained from people who challenged your perspective? One reason divine connections are so powerful is because they often provide access to knowledge and experience. Wisdom can save years of unnecessary struggle. Learning from someone who has already walked a particular path can help you avoid mistakes and recognize opportunities more quickly. God frequently uses mentors, coaches, teachers, and wise counselors as part of His guidance system. Who are the people you turn to when you need wisdom and direction? Have you thanked them for the role they play in your journey? There are also relationships that provide encouragement during difficult seasons. Life includes moments when faith is tested and confidence is challenged. During those times, A supportive voice can make an enormous difference. God often sends people who remind us of His promises when we are struggling to see them clearly ourselves. Has someone ever encouraged you during a season when you felt discouraged? How important was their support during that time? While praying for divine connections, it is also important to pray for discernment. Not every relationship is beneficial. Some people inspire growth, while others create distractions. Some relationships move us closer to God's purpose, while others pull us away from it. Discernment helps us recognize which connections should be nurtured and which influences should be limited. Have you ever realized that a certain relationship was affecting your peace or progress? What did that experience teach you about discernment? One of the challenges many people face is holding on to relationships that belong to previous seasons. Sometimes God is doing something new, but we remain attached to what is familiar. Growth often requires the courage to embrace change. While this can be difficult, trusting God's wisdom allows us to move forward with confidence. Have you ever had to release something familiar in order to embrace a new season? How did God help you navigate that transition? Divine connections are not always people who agree with everything you say. Sometimes the most valuable relationships are those that challenge you to grow. A true destiny helper does not simply tell you what you want to hear. They speak truth, provide accountability, and encourage you to become the best version of yourself. Do you have people in your life who can lovingly challenge you when necessary? How has accountability helped your growth? Another powerful truth is that God can use unexpected people. We often imagine that opportunities will come through familiar sources, but God frequently surprises us. He may use someone from a different background, industry, city, or generation. He may create connections in ways that exceed our expectations. This is why remaining open to His leading is so important. Have you ever received help or encouragement from someone you never expected? What did that experience teach you about God's creativity? Relationships also require stewardship. Once God brings the right people into your life, it is important to value and nurture those connections. Healthy relationships thrive through gratitude, communication, respect, and consistency. Many people pray for meaningful connections, but neglect them once they arrive. Are there people in your life you should appreciate more intentionally? When was the last time you expressed gratitude for their impact? Sometimes God positions you not only to receive help, but also to become a blessing to others. Divine connections are not one-sided. As God uses people to strengthen you, He also desires to use you to encourage, support, and uplift others. Every believer has the potential to become a destiny helper in someone else's journey. Who might God be calling you to encourage today? Is there someone who could benefit from your support, wisdom, or kindness? Generosity of spirit creates room for meaningful relationships. When we celebrate others, support their success, and genuinely desire their well-being, we cultivate an atmosphere where healthy connections can flourish. Jealousy divides, but encouragement unites. Competition isolates, but generosity builds bridges. Do you find it easy to celebrate the success of others? How might your relationships grow stronger through greater encouragement and support? One of the beautiful things about God's plan is that He sees connections we cannot yet see. While you are praying, He may already be arranging conversations, meetings, introductions, and opportunities. He may be preparing someone who possesses exactly the wisdom, encouragement, or resources you need for the next season of your life. At the same time, He may be preparing you to become an answer to someone else's prayer. Can you imagine the connections God may already be arranging behind the scenes? What possibilities become available when you trust His timing? Every season carries relationships that serve a purpose. Some arrive briefly, while others remain for years. Some provide guidance. Others offer encouragement. Some create opportunities, while others help strengthen character. Through it all, God remains the ultimate source. He knows who belongs in your life, who will help you grow, who will encourage your faith, and who will walk beside you as you pursue his purpose. As you continue seeking him, cultivating wisdom, practicing discernment, and remaining open to his leading, he is fully capable of connecting you with the right people at the right time, opening doors through relationships, creating opportunities through divine appointments, and surrounding you with individuals who help you move confidently toward the future he has prepared for you. Tell me in the comments, what kind of divine connection are you praying for in this season? Are you believing God for a mentor, a friend, a business opportunity, a ministry connection, or someone who will help you step into the next chapter of your purpose? Beloved, when God opens a door, there comes a moment when you must decide whether you will walk through it. Many people pray for opportunities, ask for breakthroughs, and seek divine favor. But when the door finally opens, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and hesitation attempt to keep them standing on the threshold. Yet God did not create you to spend your life watching opportunities from a distance. He created you to move forward in faith and boldly step into the promises he has prepared for you. Have you ever prayed for something and then felt nervous when it finally arrived? Have you ever found yourself asking God for an opportunity, but hesitating when it appeared? Walking into God's promises requires courage because faith often takes us beyond familiar territory. We naturally prefer comfort, predictability, and certainty. We like knowing exactly how everything will unfold. Yet God's greatest blessings are often discovered outside the boundaries of comfort. Growth begins where complacency ends. Is there an area of your life where God may be asking you to move beyond your comfort zone? What has been holding you back from taking that next step? Many people spend years waiting for the perfect moment. They tell themselves they will move forward when they feel more prepared, when circumstances improve, or when fear disappears. But the truth is that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward despite fear. It is trusting God's promises more than your doubts. Have you been waiting for fear to disappear before taking action? What might happen if you decided to trust God even while feeling uncertain? One of the enemy's favorite tactics is intimidation. He wants you to focus on everything that could go wrong. He wants you to magnify potential problems while minimizing God's power. He whispers questions designed to create hesitation. What if you fail? What if you are not qualified? What if it doesn't work? Yet faith asks a different question. What if God is already making a way? Have you noticed how fear often focuses on worst-case scenarios? What would change if you focused more on God's promises than on your worries? The Lord never intended for fear to be your guide. His guidance comes through faith, wisdom, peace, and trust. Fear limits vision, but faith expands it. Fear sees obstacles, while faith sees possibilities. Fear keeps people standing still, but faith empowers them to move forward. Can you identify a situation where fear may be influencing your decisions right now? How would your choices look different if faith took the lead? Walking boldly into God's promises also requires confidence in his character. You may not know everything about the journey ahead, but you can trust the one leading you. God is faithful. He is wise. He is trustworthy. He does not open doors merely to abandon you once you walk through them. His presence accompanies his purpose. Does knowing that God goes before you bring peace to your heart? How often do you remind yourself that you are not walking alone? Many believers underestimate how much God has already prepared them for the opportunities ahead. They focus on what they lack instead of recognizing what God has already placed within them. They see weaknesses but overlook strengths. They notice limitations but forget about grace. Yet the same God who calls you also equips you. Have you been focusing more on your shortcomings than your strengths? What gifts and abilities has God already placed inside you? Sometimes bold faith means taking one small step rather than making one giant leap. We often imagine dramatic acts of courage, but many breakthroughs begin with simple acts of obedience. A conversation, an application, a phone call, a decision, a prayer, a willingness to say yes when God opens a door. What small step might God be asking you to take today? Is there something you have been postponing that needs your attention? Every promise carries responsibility. When God opens a door, He invites you to partner with Him through obedience. Faith is not passive, it moves, it responds, it acts. The blessings of God are often connected to the willingness of His people to step forward when He says go. Have there been opportunities you recognized but did not pursue? What lesson did you learn from those experiences? One reason many people hesitate is because they fear failure. They worry about making mistakes. They wonder what others will think if things do not work out perfectly. Yet failure is not final when God is involved. Even setbacks can become lessons. Even mistakes can become opportunities for growth. God's grace is greater than human imperfection. Have you ever learned an important lesson from a failure? How did that experience shape your character and faith? The opinions of others can also become obstacles to bold faith. Sometimes people hesitate because they fear criticism. They worry about being misunderstood. They allow the expectations of others to determine the direction of their lives. Yet your purpose is not defined by public opinion. Your assignment comes from God. Have you ever delayed a decision because you were worried about what others might think? How much influence should those opinions really have over your future? There are moments when stepping into God's promises requires leaving behind familiar environments. Familiarity can feel safe, but growth often requires movement. The next chapter of your life may not look like the previous one. God may be calling you into new territory, new opportunities, and new experiences. Is there something familiar that God may be asking you to release? What new possibility could be waiting on the other side of obedience? Confidence grows through action. The more you trust God and move forward, the more evidence you gather of His faithfulness. Every step of obedience becomes a testimony. Every breakthrough becomes a reminder that God keeps His promises. Every victory strengthens your ability to trust Him again. Can you remember a time when God came through for you after you took a step of faith? How does that memory encourage you today? Many people pray for open doors, but forget that open doors require movement. A door can stand open, yet someone must choose to walk through it. Opportunities can be available, yet someone must respond. God's provision often meets us as we move forward in obedience. Are there doors currently open in your life that you have not fully stepped into? What is preventing you from moving forward? The Lord desires His people to live with expectation. Expectation is the confident belief that God is working even when we cannot yet see the results. It is waking up each day believing that opportunities exist, favor is available, and God's promises remain active. Expectation positions the heart to recognize blessings when they appear. How would your daily outlook change if you expected God to do something extraordinary? What opportunities might you notice that you have been overlooking? Walking boldly also means refusing to allow past disappointments to define future possibilities. Many people stop believing because previous attempts did not work out. They become cautious because they have experienced rejection. They become hesitant because they have encountered setbacks. Yet every new season brings new possibilities. Have past disappointments affected your willingness to trust again? What would happen if you allowed hope to rise above those previous experiences? God specializes in doing new things. He is not limited by your past. He is not restricted by previous failures. He is not confined by old disappointments. His ability to create opportunities remains unlimited. The future He has prepared is not determined by what happened yesterday. Are you still carrying expectations shaped by old disappointments? How might your faith grow if you believed God for something new? One of the greatest expressions of faith is saying yes to God before you know every detail. It is choosing trust over certainty. It is believing that His wisdom exceeds your understanding. It is moving forward because you know His character, even when you do not know exactly how everything will unfold. What area of your life requires a fresh yes to God today? What would bold obedience look like in your current season? There are opportunities waiting, doors opening, blessings unfolding, and promises moving toward fulfillment. God has not brought you this far to leave you standing still. He has not invested purpose within you so that fear can keep you from pursuing it. He has equipped you with gifts, surrounded